You know, when you're learning a new language, especially English, one of the very first things you'll ever say to someone is an introduction. Think about that for a moment. Your introduction is your opening line, your first impression, and your invitation for connection. It's how you step into conversations, classrooms, workplaces, even friendships. That's why learning how to introduce yourself properly in English is so much more than just memorizing a few words. It's about giving yourself the confidence to speak, to be seen, and to be understood. Imagine meeting someone new. Maybe you're at a language exchange, or maybe you've just started a new job in an English speaking environment. What's the first thing you'll need to do? You'll need to greet them. You'll need to say your name, tell them where you're from, maybe share what you do or what you're interested in. And the way you say those first few sentences, the confidence in your voice, the clarity of your words, that's what people remember. First impressions matter. They set the tone for everything that comes next. And in English, especially British English, those first words often carry both politeness and warmth. But let's take it one step deeper. Learning to introduce yourself isn't just about grammar, it's about belonging. When you know how to introduce yourself in English, you no longer feel like an outsider looking in. You feel like someone who can take part, who can share, who can connect. That's a powerful shift. It changes how you walk into rooms, how you ask questions, and how people respond to you. You become someone they can talk to, relate to, remember. So what happens when we don't know how to introduce ourselves confidently? We shrink a little, we hesitate, we worry. Did I say that right? Do I sound strange? What if they don't understand me? And that hesitation creates a barrier, not just between you and other people, but between you and your own progress. That's why this lesson is so important. It removes the fear. It gives you a script, a structure, a starting point, and more than that, it gives you a small win, a moment where you say, yes, I can do this, I am doing this. And here's the best part, introductions are not complicated. You don't need fancy vocabulary or long sentences. All you need is a handful of useful phrases, a bit of confidence, and the willingness to practice. Start simple. Hello, my name is, I'm from, I work as. These are short, clear, and effective. With just those, you're already in the game. You've already opened the door to connection. And over time, as you get more comfortable, you can add a little more, a hobby, a fun fact, a question back to the other person. Now, in British English, introductions also tend to include a tone of politeness and sometimes a little small talk. You might hear, nice to meet you, or how are you doing today? These small phrases go a long way. They soften the conversation, they make you sound friendly, and they show that you're not just speaking English. You're speaking it naturally, and that is when you start to feel truly confident. So don't rush this part of your learning. Take the time to really master it. Practice your greeting in front of a mirror. Record yourself and listen back. Try introducing yourself in different ways, with a friend, in a class, or even in a comment section online. The more you say it, the easier it becomes, and the easier it becomes, the more likely you are to use it when it matters most. Because the truth is, you never know when opportunity will come knocking. You might meet someone new tomorrow. You might join a course next week. You might travel or apply for a job or simply make a new friend online. And when that moment comes when someone looks at you and says, "Hi, what's your name?" I want you to feel ready. I want you to smile, take a breath, and speak clearly. Because that's not just an introduction. It's your voice, your story, and your beginning. When you meet someone new, the very first thing you say is often just a simple hello. It seems so small, so basic, but those first few words can shape how the entire conversation flows. And in British English, greetings have a particular rhythm and charm to them. They're often gentle, polite, and sometimes even a little playful. So when we talk about learning to introduce yourself, we can't skip over the importance of how you say hello, because the right greeting, spoken naturally, sets the tone. It makes you sound confident, friendly, and approachable right from the start. Now, a lot of learners ask, what's the best way to greet someone in British English? The answer really depends on the context, who you're talking to, and where you are. But let's start with the most universal one, hello. It's simple, clean, and works in almost every situation. You can use it with strangers, colleagues, friends, even teachers. It's neutral, it's friendly, and it never sounds too casual or too formal. If you're not sure what to say, just start with hello. It's a safe and solid choice. But of course, British English also has its own flavor. Instead of hi, which is very common in American English, many British speakers say all right, or you all right, as a casual greeting. Now, this doesn't mean they're checking on your health. It's just a way of saying hello. And the expected answer isn't a long explanation. Usually, you just respond with something like, yeah, good you, or even just all right. It's quick, informal, and it makes you sound like you belong. For more formal situations, let's say a job interview or meeting someone for the first time, you might want to say something a little more polite. Phrases like good morning, good afternoon, or nice to meet you go a long way. They show respect and politeness, which are very important in British culture. Even just adding a friendly "How are you today?" can make your greeting feel warmer and more complete. These phrases are simple, but they help build trust and ease in a conversation. One thing to remember is that tone matters. It's not just the words you say, it's how you say them. In British English, tone tends to be a bit softer, more reserved. You'll rarely hear someone shout a greeting across the room. Instead, it's usually spoken with a calm, friendly voice. Try saying hello with a smile, a gentle tone, and maybe a little nod. That alone can make you seem confident and kind. Let's also talk about body language. In British culture, people often shake hands when they first meet. It's not always required, but in more formal settings it's quite common, and eye contact, that's important too. Not in an intense or staring way, but just enough to show you're listening and present. Combine that with your simple, well-practiced greeting and you're off to a strong start. It's also helpful to have a few follow-up phrases ready. After saying hello, you might continue with "it's nice to meet you," or "how's your day going?" These little additions make the interaction feel more personal, and if someone says hi or hello to you first, you can always reply with the same, or return the energy with a polite smile and "hello there." Sometimes even adding the person's name makes it feel warmer, like "Hi, Sarah, how are you?" Another thing learners sometimes worry about is not sounding native enough. But let me tell you something important. You don't need to sound exactly like a British person. What you need is clarity, friendliness, and confidence. That's what people respond to. If you say "Hello, my name is Ahmed," with a smile and steady voice, you've already made a great impression, and the more you practice, the more natural it will sound. So practice your greetings as much as you can. Say them out loud when you're alone. Use them in real conversations, even if they're short. Greet your teacher, your classmates, your friends. The more times you say hello, the easier it gets. And each time you do, you're not just learning English. You're building relationships, you're stepping into new spaces, and you're becoming more comfortable in a language that once felt unfamiliar. After you've said hello, the next thing people usually want to know is who you are. It's simple, right? But sharing your name, what you do, and where you're from in English, especially in a natural, confident way, and sometimes feel harder than it should. That's why it's worth spending time learning how to say these things smoothly, without hesitation, and in a way that fits different situations. Let's start with your name. One of the easiest and most effective ways to say your name in English is simply, "My name is." For example, "My name is Maria," or "My name is Ollie." You could also say, "I'm Maria," or "I'm Ollie." Both are completely correct and commonly used. If you want to be a little more friendly or informal, especially if you're meeting someone closer to your own age, just saying "I'm" plus your name is perfectly fine. In fact, many native speakers use it every day. It's quick, relaxed, and feels natural in conversation. Now, if your name might be difficult for English speakers to pronounce, you can help them by saying it clearly and slowly the first time. You can even add, "You can call me," or "It's pronounced like." If you think it would help, don't be afraid to guide people. Most of the time, they'll appreciate your help and want to say it correctly. That in itself is a great way to build rapport. Once you've shared your name, the next thing people often ask is, "Where are you from?" This is a very common question, especially when meeting someone in an international environment. You can say, "I'm from Pakistan," or "I come from Brazil." Both are good and natural ways to respond. If you're living in a different country now, you might say, "I'm originally from Egypt, but I live in London now." These little details not only help others understand more about you, but they also give the conversation a direction. It opens the door for them to ask follow-up questions, which is how real conversation begins. Sharing where you're from also gives you a chance to add a little bit of pride. Many people feel a strong connection to their home country, and expressing that in English helps your personality come through. You don't have to give a long explanation. Just a few words can say a lot. Even adding a sentence like, "It's a beautiful place," or "The food there is amazing," makes your introduction feel more alive and personal. Now, let's move to talking about what you do. This is another common part of introductions, especially in more professional or formal situations. If you're working, you can say, "I work as a teacher," or "I'm a software engineer." If you're a student, simply say, "I'm a student," or "I study biology at university." If you're not working right now, that's okay too. You can say, "I'm currently looking for work," or "I'm taking a break at the moment." It's honest, and it still gives people a clear picture of your situation. Sometimes people hesitate to talk about their job because they think it doesn't sound impressive enough. But the truth is, it's not about impressing others, it's about connecting. Whether you're a chef, a driver, a nurse, a designer, or anything else, your work is part of your story. And saying it with pride shows self-respect, which always comes across well in conversation. The key to making all of this sound confident is practice. The more you repeat your introduction out loud, the more natural it becomes. Try putting it all together like this. "Hi, I'm Lena. I'm from Turkey. I work as a graphic designer." That's 3 short, simple sentences, but together they give someone a clear, friendly, and complete first impression of who you are. You don't need to rush. Speak slowly and clearly. Pause between your sentences if needed. Confidence isn't about speed, it's about clarity and presence. And once you've shared your name, where you're from, and what you do, take a moment to ask the other person about themselves. A simple "and you," or "what about you," turns the introduction into a two-way conversation. That's where real communication begins. You're no longer just saying sentences you memorized. You're connecting. Being able to introduce yourself confidently in English isn't just a skill, it's an opportunity, It's your chance to be seen, to be heard, and to share a little piece of your world with someone new. When we're just starting to learn English, especially when we're learning how to introduce ourselves, it's completely normal to make a few mistakes. In fact, making mistakes is part of the learning journey. But some of the mistakes that beginners make can become habits if they aren't noticed and corrected early on. The good news is that most of these mistakes are easy to fix once we're aware of them. With a few simple tips and some consistent practice, you can sound much more natural and confident in your English introductions. One very common mistake is overthinking and using overly complicated words or grammar. When we want to impress someone or sound fluent, it's tempting to try and speak like we've been learning English for 10 years, even if we're only at the beginning. But here's the truth: clear, simple English is always better than complicated sentences that feel awkward. Saying, "Hello, I am Maria, I'm from Spain, I work in a school," is not only correct, it's beautiful in its simplicity. It's easy to understand, and it shows confidence. Trying to say too much, too fast, or with words we don't fully understand can lead to mistakes and confusion. So keep it simple and build from there. Another mistake learners often make is forgetting the basics, especially pronunciation. For example, words like name, alive, and job seem easy, but if we're not careful, we can pronounce them in a way that makes them hard to understand. This can cause a moment of confusion or even make the other person mishear what we've said. The best way to avoid this is to listen to native speakers and repeat the phrases you want to use. Even just 10 minutes a day can help train your ear and your tongue to say things more clearly. Some beginners also tend to speak too quietly or with hesitation. It's usually not because they don't know what to say, it's because they're afraid of making a mistake. That fear creates a soft voice, maybe with a few pauses or nervous laughter. But here's a small shift that can make a big difference. Slow down, breathe, and speak with intention. Even if your English isn't perfect, people are more likely to understand you and engage with you if you sound sure of yourself. You don't have to be loud, just clear, and you don't have to speak fast, just confidently. A mistake that's very easy to fix is using the wrong verb forms. For example, saying "I am work as a teacher" instead of "I work as a teacher," or saying "I am from Pakistan" correctly, but then saying "I am live in Lahore" instead of "I live in Lahore." It usually happens when we try to use "I am" for every sentence, but not all sentences in English need am or is. When we talk about where we're from, yes, we say "I am from." But when we talk about what we do or where we live, we say "I work as" or "I live in." A simple tip here is to write your introduction out and check each sentence. Is it "I am" or just "I," followed by the verb? This tiny check can make your speech sound much more natural. Another thing to keep in mind is not translating directly from your native language. Sometimes we try to think in our own language and just say the English version word for word. But English has its own rhythm and structure, especially British English. Instead of translating, try to think in English, even if it's just for small sentences. Practice short, complete thoughts like "I'm from Kenya" or "I like painting." That way, the sentences will come out more naturally and you'll avoid those odd phrases that don't quite sound right. And don't forget about body language. Sometimes, beginners make the mistake of focusing only on words and forgetting to smile or make eye contact. A warm expression can make up for a small grammar mistake. People remember how you make them feel, not just what you say. So even if you stumble on a word or pause for a second, your friendly energy will carry you through. Finally, a mistake that often gets overlooked is not practicing out loud. Many learners read or listen to English, but they don't speak it regularly. Then, when they try to introduce themselves, their mouth doesn't quite cooperate. The words feel stuck, so the simple solution is this. Practice saying your introduction aloud every day, in the mirror, in your room, even while walking. Just 5 minutes of speaking daily builds your muscle memory and confidence more than hours of silent studying. Mistakes are not something to fear. They are part of the process, and each one is a lesson in disguise. But by paying attention to the small things, speaking clearly, using the right verb forms, listening carefully, and practicing out loud, you'll avoid the most common problems and start to sound more natural, more fluent, and more like yourself in English. One of the most exciting parts of learning English, especially British English, is discovering the little phrases and ways of speaking that make you sound more natural, more authentic. It's not just about learning vocabulary or grammar. It's about getting the rhythm and feeling of the language right. Sometimes, just using a simple, everyday British phrase can instantly make your English sound warmer, friendlier, and more connected to real life. And when you combine that with clear pronunciation, even simple sentences can have a real impact. Let's begin with greetings and everyday expressions. In British English, people often say cheers, not only when making a toast, but also casually to mean thank you. For example, if someone holds a door open for you, you can say cheers with a smile, and it's completely normal. It's friendly, informal, and very commonly used. You might also hear people say you all right, or all right, instead of hello or how are you. It might sound confusing at first, but in the UK, this is a relaxed and typical way to greet someone. You don't have to answer with a full sentence. Just a quick yeah, I'm good, you, or even just all right, works perfectly. Another useful phrase is nice one, which means well done or good job. You might hear it in response to a good answer, a helpful action, or even just a small success. And then there's no worries, which is used instead of you're welcome or don't mention it. It gives your speech a casual, calm tone that native British speakers often use in daily conversations. When introducing yourself or chatting with someone new, using a phrase like pleased to meet you or lovely to meet you can really make a difference. These sound polite, natural, and are widely used across the UK. And if you're finishing a conversation, something like take care or speak soon feels personal and friendly without being too formal. These little touches help you go beyond textbook English and start sounding like someone who actually uses the language in real life. Of course, pronunciation plays a big role too. You don't have to sound exactly like a native speaker to be understood, but paying attention to the sounds and rhythm of British English can help your speech flow more naturally. One thing to notice is how the letter T is pronounced. In many British accents, especially in southern England, the T in the middle of a word is clearly pronounced. So instead of saying wa-er for water, say wat-er. That crisp T is a small thing, but it really helps you sound more British. Also, in British English, the R at the end of words like teacher or father is often much softer or even silent. So instead of saying teacher, it sounds more like teacher. These little pronunciation changes might seem small, but when you start using them, your English will instantly sound more natural to a British ear. Stress and intonation are also important. In English, especially British English, some syllables are stronger than others. For example, in the word introduce, the stress is on the last syllable, introduce. In confident, the stress is on the first syllable, confident. If you stress the wrong part, people might still understand you, but the word won't sound quite right. Listening to British speakers and repeating after them is one of the best ways to train your ear and mouth to get this rhythm right. And let's not forget linking sounds. British English tends to flow smoothly, with words connecting together. For example, in a sentence like "I'm going to ask her," it often sounds like "I'm going to ask her," almost like one word. That linking helps the speech sound natural, not choppy or robotic. Practicing full sentences, not just individual words, helps you get used to this natural flow. Using contractions is another way to sound more fluent. Instead of saying "I am from India," try "I'm from India," or instead of "she is a doctor," say "she's a doctor." These small changes make your speech feel more relaxed and conversational. Native speakers use contractions all the time, and they are a key part of sounding natural in English. But the most important tip is to listen, really listen. Watch British TV shows, YouTube videos, and podcasts. Not just for the grammar, but for the tone, the expressions, and the little words that give the language life. Then speak, practice, try the phrases yourself, even if you're just talking to yourself in the mirror. Try saying "cheers for that," or "I'm just popping out," or "it was lovely chatting with you." At first, it might feel unfamiliar, but slowly it becomes part of how you speak. Authenticity in language doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from being present, being clear, and sounding like someone who lives with the language, not just studies it. British English has a charm, a friendliness, and a rhythm all its own. Learn it, enjoy it, and let it shape how you connect with the world. The most important thing I can say to you, after everything we've talked about, introductions, greetings, pronunciation, useful phrases, is this: none of it truly comes alive until you start using it. Language is not just something you learn in your head. It lives in your mouth, in your voice, in your interactions with others. That's why, if you really want to get better at English, especially at introducing yourself, you need to practice. Not just once or twice, but every day. A little each day, consistently, is what turns shy learners into confident speakers. Think of it like this: if you only read about how to swim, but never got in the water, would you really know how to do it? Language is just the same. You can study vocabulary lists, watch lessons, and memorize grammar. But until you open your mouth and speak, your learning stays locked inside. Practice is what unlocks it. And starting with your introduction is the best place, because it's the foundation for all future conversations. It's where every connection begins. Even 5 minutes a day can change everything. Stand in front of a mirror and introduce yourself. Say your name, where you're from, what you do. Say it slowly, clearly, and with intention. Look yourself in the eye as you speak. At first it might feel silly, but very soon it will feel natural. Then do it again, maybe this time with different details. Add a hobby, a favorite food, something small. Keep expanding, sentence by sentence, day by day. Another great way to practice is by recording yourself. Use your phone, press record, and speak. Then play it back. Listen for how you sound. Are you clear? Are you speaking too fast or too softly? Are your verbs in the right place? This simple act of listening to your own voice is one of the most powerful tools you have. You become your own teacher, and every time you hear yourself improve, it builds your confidence even more. And once you've done that in private, the next step is the most exciting one. Start talking to people, real people. It doesn't have to be a long conversation. Even 1 or 2 sentences are enough. Greet someone, ask how they are, share your name. That's it. That's conversation. You can do this with classmates, with people online, in a cafe, in a language group, or in a comment section of an English video. The world is full of chances to speak. You just have to be brave enough to take one. You don't need perfect grammar to start talking. You just need the courage to try, and every time you do, your fear gets smaller and your confidence grows. That's how learning works, not through perfection, but through repetition, through real use, through mistakes that become lessons and words that become habits. Sometimes learners wait for the perfect moment. They say, "I'll start speaking when I know more." But the truth is, the perfect moment doesn't come. You don't wait until you're fluent to speak. You speak to become fluent, so don't wait. Start now. Use the phrases you've learned. Use the pronunciation tips, the greetings, the structures. They're not just lessons, they're your tools. And you're ready to use them. Speak to someone today, even if it's just one sentence. Say, "Hi, I'm learning English." Say, "My name is Sarah." Say, "I'm from Argentina." Say anything, because that tiny step forward is what builds momentum. And the more steps you take, the stronger your English becomes. Practicing daily doesn't mean you have to do something huge every day. Just something, one sentence, one conversation, one introduction. Little actions done regularly are far more powerful than big actions done once. Your English isn't built in a day, it's built daily. Every time you speak, you're not just practicing language, you're building your identity in English. You're giving yourself the freedom to connect, to share your story, to be part of a global conversation, and it all starts with you, your voice, your words. That's why it matters. That's why you need to speak. Even if your voice shakes at first, speak anyway, because your story, your background, your words, they matter, and the world needs to hear them. Thank you so much for joining this lesson today. You've just taken a powerful step forward in your English learning journey, one that will help you speak more confidently, more naturally, and with your own voice. We've looked at why introductions matter, how to greet someone in British English, how to clearly say your name, your job, and where you're from, and even how to avoid the most common beginner mistakes. You've picked up some really useful phrases and pronunciation tips, and hopefully you're feeling more ready to go out there and start having real conversations. Remember, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. Speak a little every day. Say hello. Introduce yourself. Use what you've learned, and don't be afraid to make mistakes, because that's exactly how progress is made. You already have everything you need. All that's left is to practice, to keep going, and to believe in your ability to grow. So wherever you are in the world, however you're learning, just know we are proud of you. Keep speaking, keep smiling, and keep sharing your story in English. See you in the next lesson. Take care and bye for now.